Your light looks really fuzzy.
Let's fix that. What the hell? It's not getting okay.
No, it
Well,
is a little bit better.
okay. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Eric.
Feels like it's been forever
It has
since
been
we've
forever.
sat in front of our mics.
You've been a working man.
Yeah. Well, you've been working hard also, so let's not discount that.
All right, welcome everyone to episode 39 of the Mom and Eric podcast. Sorry for those of you who are waiting for our random appearances on social media. Sorry for the long hiatus, but
No, we do this when we feel like it, you know,
we do it
and
when we
that's
feel like
that's
it. That's
awesome.
right. Yeah.
And I'm sitting here with my herbal tea.
Yes. So bizarre. Eric is now a tea drinker.
Yeah, I'm trying.
So there's a really funny video, a meme I once saw that said, "You drink one cup of tea, one mug of tea a year, and suddenly it becomes your whole personality."
Yeah,
Anyway,
well, that's been the vibe around the house.
so I'm excited to talk about our movie today and to talk about the director who made the movie because you did you just watch The Shape of Water?
Yeah, today.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Guillermo del Toro, if you haven't guessed by that little teaser that I just dropped. But we specifically, we're going to focus this episode on Frankenstein because that's his latest release. And it's the one that I saw the most recently. And Eric actually saw it recently too. I have a bundle of reactions and feelings about Guillermo del Toro in general. Off the bat, I should just say that I think he's so talented, like so talented, and such a visionary, but it doesn't necessarily translate to me always loving his movies. And so
Hmm.
that's an interesting thing. And I was really surprised to see the rating that you gave Frankenstein on letterboxd.
Yeah,
So
me too.
yeah, anyway, I know it's your review sounded like you were surprised by that rating.
Yeah, I was.
So anyway, so why don't we get right into it and start with Frankenstein, and we'll talk about the other Del Toro movies that we've seen. And there's quite a few, well, not quite a few, but there's Del Toro movies that I will never seen because he so closely walks that line between horror and fantasy. And so when he gets into horror, like Nightmare Alley or the house on, I think it's Crimson Hill or something like that, the haunted house of something like that. I forget what the title is, but anyway, when he gets into straightforward horror, I feel like I don't have the fortitude to watch his movies. So I like it when he's a little bit in that netherworld between fantasy and horror, and also is trying to say something about the human condition through fantasy and horror. But Frankenstein is pretty much the most classic tale that you could base that Del Toro could possibly take on. And so why don't do you want to start with the synopsis or should I? It's really simple.
No, I could do it. This is one
Yeah,
that's
so simple. This is
easy
the
enough for me to
classic
do.
novel.
Yeah, well, so evil, well, not evil, sorry. Mad scientist who wants to kind of conquer death, um, loses his mother at a young age and kind of thinks that that's like an affront, like, like that shouldn't happen. And he spends his whole life researching how to kind of manufacture life in a way that prolongs it and in a very grotesque way, just like extends life. And so then he gets funding from a guy who is like an arms merchant,
Yeah,
who secretly just wants to prolong his own life, but doesn't reveal that until much later. And so the scientist creates this like monstrosity created from, dead
different people.
soldiers and dead people. Yeah, and then is forced to live with his creation in a way that kind of makes him insecure and also deals
Crazy.
yeah, crazy and like just utterly crazy because he has no
Yeah,
idea what to do with this thing that he's
right.
created.
He's
I also
frustrated also.
and he I guess he expected it to be like a fully formed person in mind and body and soul. But what he got was basically like a what you would expect, which is somebody who just started existing today. So
Right.
yeah.
Like
But
Bella Baxter. Like Bella Baxter of Poor Things.
oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, wow. That's funny. I didn't make that connection when I watched Poor Things, but that is definitely drawing on Frankenstein. But this is like
I
Very
thought about
established
I thought
tale.
about Poor Things a lot when I was watching Frankenstein.
Mm. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. But yeah, that's basically the movie.
That's the movie. And so the mad scientist, Victor Frankenstein, is played by Oscar Isaac. The monster, I don't know if we can, is that his name, Monster? Does he have a name?
Frankenstein's monster, I feel like, is the normal title. I am one of those people that confuses like the names, like, oh, that's Frankenstein. No,
Right.
no, that's Frankenstein's a scientist, actually. You're wrong. For true Frankenstein fans,
Uh,
sorry, I'm not one, but
Frankenstein is played by Jacob Elordi. The Frankenstein's monster is played by Jacob Elordi, and then his brother, I forget the actor's name, and then, the guy the arms dealer is played by Christoph Waltz, who's a very well-known actor, and then the bride of Frankenstein's brother, Dr. Frankenstein's brother, is, played by Mia Goth, who's a very interesting actress and has appeared in a lot of really sort of gothic horror films. She really specializes in sort of gothic horror. I think that's her thing.
yeah,
So anyway, so why don't we, before I get into just sort of the different shades of gray that I was thinking about this movie, why don't we? So you
yeah,
liked it quite a bit.
I did
So
actually.
yeah, so
Yeah,
talk about why you liked it.
I just I grew to like it. Oh, as
Oh,
I was watching
interesting.
it, it wasn't something I started off liking right away. Which usually for movies I do like, I start off liking right away.
Yeah. Would you say that you're favorably disposed to like Guillermo del Toro before you watch one of his movies? Because you've seen Pacific Rim and Pinocchio before this.
I'm I'm predisposed to respect like what
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
watching. It's
That's
a
interesting.
it's because I know like
That's a
I've
great
been
way to put
getting
it.
thank you. It's been the content I've been receiving recently because he's been doing press tours for Frankenstein
Yeah.
just is showing me like that not only has he been around for a long time and he's made some really great works of art. I mean, even going back to his Oscar speech, before I even watched Shape of Water today, like just listening to how he speaks about film and how he interacts with um uh people who are interviewing him, just like everything he says, I think I really respect because he's definitely coming at cinema from a place of love and is kind of you know, by default put into these boxes that he doesn't care about, obviously,
Yes. Yes.
which is cool. So going into the movie, I was only uh, curious, like because I actually don't think I've reserved that much space for his work in my mind, just because um, it's not fully like my thing. Uh, I think his aesthetic choices are like a bit far off from what I'm into. Given that he's like worked on horror movies and he really
Yeah.
likes practical like gore and effects and like things that are a little that make you a little uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's I'm all about like sunshine and rainbows and like
Clearly.
and
And
image
unicorn.
and beautiful images. Um, but like yeah,
You also
so.
like things tidied up at the end too.
Exactly, exactly. So, but that exactly right there is why I like this movie because at the end of the day, he I felt did justice to the story that he presented, like and I've examined a lot of people criticizing the movie in comparison to the original Frankenstein. Um, Obviously, it's another instance where I'm coming at this from zero knowledge whatsoever.
Zero
But
cultural understanding.
zero cultural understanding. But in the past, like when you've heard me talk about this stuff, like it's when I have that, it like kind of wanes. The movie ends up waning on me because like I just don't care enough. But
Yeah.
this movie kind of made me care, like by the end of it. I just really because in the beginning, like it's a very long build. It was a long movie. I kind of
Yes.
was scared off by the runtime a bit, um, and it takes a long time to just set up, what it's talking about because it's just giving you two whole sides of the story, basically the side of Dr. Frankenstein and then the side of Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
And I think actually, that transition when I realized we were gonna get both stories
Yeah.
felt like oh, okay, we're actually encompassing, all these characters and like making
Yeah.
it come to a head.
Yeah.
And that was the thing I was surprised about most was how captivated I was by Frankenstein's monster's story.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
um it almost feels weird that he doesn't have a name, but like it was like poetic and simple, very simple. Like it's nothing. I'm gonna say a lot. I think when we talk about this, that like I don't think anything is amazing like about this movie. Honestly,
Yeah.
like it's just really well. I think it's just pretty well done and enjoyable. Um, so, but it was Frankenstein's monster story that like made me really interested because I just love that kind of storyline. I think one thing I do want to mention that we've talked about before is when we talk about like stories about robots, like robots becoming human.
Yeah.
This is the same thing, you know. It's like
Yeah.
how do you like you
Convey
have this
emotion.
how do you
Yes.
convey emotion? You have this like thing that's basically a child, but it's so far off from what we see as human that like anything that any humanity it exhibits is something that's really incredible. So the way that Frankenstein's monster was characterized just felt like something that felt sentimental and like um, intimate, very intimate.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed that actually,
Yeah.
which I was shocked by. But you know, there's a whole like there's a whole movie before like he kind of comes into the fray, you know. So and that was where it was kind of like, okay, let me just let's get through this. Like I'm okay, I'm kind of interested. Like, and then yeah, exactly,
Um, I am so glad that you took the lead on commentary about this movie and then also about Guillermo del Toro because as you were speaking, there are just a few things that you said that really, really resonated for me. Number one, the respect of Guillermo del Toro, like what he puts into his craft. I think that no matter how I end up feeling after his movies, I have so much respect for the craft. I am just stunned by the beauty of some of his sets, of his construction, of how he puts every single like thought into every detail of production design. And I think in your letterbox review, you called out Mia Goth's, her character, her costumes, and
Mm,
it's just stunning. The way that the colors look so saturated, and the way that they work with her features and like her long hair is just incredible. It's almost like watching visual poetry. And then the other thing that you said that really resonated with me is that Del Toro comes at filmmaking from a place of love, and you can feel the love that he puts into his craft. Like you can feel how deeply he loves. And people who've talked about working with him say that he's the same way. That he's so open to their ideas about how to play the character. And how to play their character is like people say, well, should I play it like this? And Del Toro will like, well, why don't you just give it why don't you just try it your way? Let's try this to do it a number of different ways. And so he's the opposite than a dictatorial director who's like, this is my vision and my vision alone, and I'm going to control every aspect of it. So he's very, very generous and imaginative and warm-hearted in his spirit. And actually, I do wonder whether or not his incredible openness and generosity to collaboration and to other people's ideas, I wonder if that degrades the integrity of his vision somewhat. I really do. I wonder if that like sort of degrades the integrity of the story and it degrades the integrity of his overall vision because it just becomes overcrowded in a way and overly busy
totally,
or it gets
yeah,
lost. And so and I think that that's a really fine line to walk. Like when you're a director and you're a visionary, is like how much do I protect? I mean, we've talked about this I think before, but Bong Joon-ho storyboards everything and shoots only what he needs. He doesn't let his actors like play around. So there are some directors who are very tightly controlled when it comes to their vision, their story, and Guillermo del Toro is clearly not like that.
yeah.
And then the last thing is I already said this in my own review of Frankenstein, but for me, the first part was a slog. It was a slog. I was so, so, so bored. And I was so uninspired by Oscar Isaac's performance, who I actually think is a decent actor. But I think a lot of people have had issues with his performance. And so, number one of my favorite movie critics, Vulture, said that his performance was so unsubtle, and they were like Oscar Isaac is totally capable of being a subtle actor, but he was so unsubtle in this movie.
I don't think that's entirely his fault, but I do
You
agree.
oh,
Yeah.
you think he was directed that way, or it was
No, I think the writing. I have some issues with the writing. And this is kind of prevalent in some of Del
Del
Toro's
Toro's
other
movies?
movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe it's the writing. I do agree that it was, like, constantly being hit over the head with a hammer his performance.
Yeah.
And I really wanna like Oscar Isaac so much, and so I said to dad after we watch it that the contrast for me, this is where Poor Things kept on coming up, because Poor Things also has poor and Yorgos Lanthimos and Guillermo del Toro share some sensibilities. They really get into the body horror of things, and the body horror of things really squicks me out, and there's just a lot of, like, gross stuff, in there, like
Yeah.
gore and just gross stuff. But in Poor Things, the mad scientist was played by Willem Dafoe, and he imbued that character with so much tenderness and so
Yeah.
much and so he was doing
That's a good comparison.
yeah, he was doing unspeakably horrible, horrible things, just like Dr. Frankenstein was. Like, there's so much of what they do that cause revulsion, but Oscar Isaac, I felt no compassion for Oscar Isaac. I was like, "Yeah, no, your monster should totally kill you. Like, you should
Yeah.
totally be
No,
destroyed."
true. Yeah.
So, I felt no compassion, no feeling, and I think that that had to do with Oscar Isaac's performance. I just thought he was just so, so unsettled, and it was so funny because I was watching an interview with him and Del Toro that was being the interviewer was Bill Hader, and Bill Hader was doing this really funny riff ab he was like, "Man, your performance was so awesome. I hated you so much." And in particular, he called out the part where he's presenting his experiments to the medical school, and he's like, "I can't believe that you were just tossing a ball up in the air and effortlessly saying your lines. That's so annoying. I hate you so much." So, Bill Hader was using that as an example of Oscar Isaac's effortless acting, and I actually do agree that Oscar Isaac is such an accomplished actor that he does make it seem effortless. Like, you don't feel like he's trying very hard. It's just that I felt like he made all the wrong choices in his depiction of Dr. Frankenstein so that he came off as just such a blunt force, unsympathetic character. So
Yeah.
that really pulled it down. And then part 2, when I was watching part 2, I'm actually not disposed to like Jacob Elordi at all in real life because he's got sort of this, like, kind of not great reputation, in his personal life. But, but I just felt myself being sucked into his story in the second part. And I felt like there was this really sort of beautiful, tragic simplicity about it.
Yeah.
And I found myself starting to care about it when he was with the old man in the
Me
woods,
too. Yeah.
in the farm. And that I thought that those scenes were so beautifully done and achingly beautiful and so poignant and so, like, moving, and so those types of moments when the story comes alive through the performances and the depiction and everything comes together, it makes me sad when Del Toro doesn't quite get there for all the
Yeah.
other times that I watch this movie. So I'll stop there. I had a lot of feelings about this.
No,
This is
great.
one of those movies that I really wanted to like more than I did.
I totally get that. I really understand everybody's criticisms about it because
Mhm.
or just how it waned on them because it just for worked for me because they were able to kind of tie it all together.
Yeah.
But there are like blatant issues, like uh I with Oscar Isaac, I feel like
This is how he
he,
was
you know,
this is how he was acting full time. "I must do this. It must be
yeah,
silver. It
for
must be
me,
pure
well,
silver."
again, I do think it's a directed thing and not exactly Oscar Isaac.
His
I feel like
fault.
Oscar Isaac as an actor has been done a lot of injustice for
Interesting.
what he's capable of doing. He's been in he's been in Star Wars and
Yeah, hey,
X-Men,
Palpatine's back.
Palpatine, yeah, Palpatine, yeah.
Palpatine. Palpatine. Hey, by the way, Palpatine's back.
Star Wars and then X-Men. He was Apocalypse in X-Men
Oh, that's
Apocalypse.
right. Oh, he was horrible,
And
yeah.
well, okay. And then he was Dr. Frankenstein, where he was this kind of pathetic loser, like wimpy, oh, my mom died. Like it's I feel like he's just put into these situations to kind of fail or just to not hit, as
Oh,
hard
that's
as
so
he
interesting.
could. And I love that you compared him to Willem Dafoe because Willem Dafoe, I mean, he is also he's just a masterful actor, but also that movie I think treated his character a little better. So I feel bad, it's like he makes it in my opinion he was believable, but it was also like uh I think it was a writing thing because like in that beginning like he's explaining like he's doing voiceovers like I hated my father and I loved my mother. My mother was everything in the world. Now she's dead. Like that sucks. Like okay, we kind of see that. We're watching the movie along with you. So that's why like
We kind of see that. We kind of
yeah,
get that.
that's why I would have appreciated not having those lines, but also like being more subtle or being leaving things to silence more with him, or just like something that was to be interpreted and not to be said like so blatantly.
Yeah.
So,
So
and
he was boxed into an unsubtle
I
performance.
think so.
Interesting. That's an
And
interesting theory.
you know what's funny is like this
I
has
feel like sending
it's
this to Oscar Isaac saying, "Oscar, have I wronged you?"
yeah. But it's the exact same problem, which is funny that I noticed this, but it was the same problem I had with Planet of the Apes. When I watched Planet like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it's a great movie. It's just like
Uh-huh.
it's technical marvel, you know. But the issue with that movie was that the apes were so like full they felt fully realized characters, and it was amazing to see like apes like giving this dialogue, like they'd say simple things like we do not want war, like all this stuff, and then the humans like were given the same like simple, like kind of just blatant dialogue, and that just doesn't work. Like it works for like Frankenstein's monster and the apes because we're not expecting that they can communicate such simple depth of emotion. But
Yeah.
the humans, we know, like like you are a person. We assume you are already a person, like with a soul. Like
Right.
we need to see what that soul looks like, and instead they're focused on like the plot, or like their lines are they have to match like they have to be consistent with like the other characters, so they also are given this same dialogue like that doesn't hit because we just think you're a person, right? Like so, you know, something I really loved was Jacob Elordi's voice that he made for
Yes.
like he just like his
Yes.
actual performance was very good. I had to search up that it was his voice because
Yes.
that's just like a really cool thing that he developed.
Yeah.
Um, and I was seeing like I was like, why do I feel so emotionally connected to when he says something versus when Oscar Isaac says something?
Yeah.
And it's because of that element of like it is amazing you're even able to communicate that,
Yeah.
versus like okay, like we need to see more from you, like you know,
There's an
so
interesting theme in there that is the heart and soul, really, or the central theme of Frankenstein, the story of Frankenstein, and the central theme is really like who are the monsters? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like who
yeah,
are the monsters? So he created the monster, but the real monster is us. You know, and I think that Guillermo del Toro plays with that theme all the time. I think he plays with the who are the real monsters? Is it the people, the humans who are supposedly threatened, or is it the actual like monsters or creations, you know? And I think that that is a really powerful, powerful theme to explore, but I don't think that he always does it successfully. Although I think that now looking back at the body of work that I've seen, I actually think that it's remarkably consistent, this theme of like who
yeah.
are the real monsters.
It's something that you said, consistency with his work, like that is what I see. And it's not consistency in the form of like everything
Yes.
is tight knit and perfect. Like
Yes.
it's about tone and tone and like emotions, and overarching story. Like
Yeah.
overarching story usually feels great, like things end up where they should.
Yeah.
And the tone, the way is his is Del Toro bringing that love is like you see it, like you see what his
Yes.
soul kind of looks like. um and it's also it's that childlike wonder too, like that's brought to
Yes.
the most that can be brought to the most like mature topics, like
Yeah.
you know Shape of Water was like uh very adult story, you know, and it has like some sex and some like violence and like it very and racism, like very deep themes. But I come away thinking like having like a childlike understanding of what love is really about. You know, it's like
Yes.
it's just about two people falling in love, you know?
Yes.
And everything else sort of just supports that. And same with Frankenstein, it's like
2
I
people falling in love.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's two people, it's a relationship, or it's an understanding, or it's like coming to some resolution that makes emotional sense. Like even if like technically doesn't make sense all the time.
I do wanna talk about the technical mastery of Guillermo del Toro, though, especially in Frankenstein, because I think I would have been still bored if I had seen it in the theater, but I think it's a movie that deserves to be seen in the theater. And so when I think back, there are so many visual images that stick with me that are very immersive is the only way that I can think of it. So the scenes on the ice with the ship stuck in the ice, you really get a sense through both the sound design and through the construction of that ship and also like through the ice coating their beards and how like red and chapped their faces were. Everything from like makeup to costume to set design to color, to everything. You were
Yeah,
so out there on this like Arctic snowy landscape with them. And the same is true. I was definitely getting David Fincher vibes in that hall that he was building Frankenstein in because
yeah,
everything was so disgusting and slimy and rotting, and moldering and the creature was kept underneath, in that like, decaying old like waterway, where all that
yeah.
like murky water was coming through. And so I think that Del Toro is just I don't know who he works with on a regular basis in terms of his production design and in terms of his costume design, but I just think he's a master. And I think that it's his vision that's informing how things are going to be, particularly, and we can shift this into the shape of color.
Shape of
Particularly
Water.
Shape of Water is the his use of color.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I was so struck by the color in Frankenstein, and
yeah,
I was so struck by the color in The Shape of Water, and, some people actually, I think, wrote essays about it because The Shape of Water was just so saturated in blues and greens, and so anytime you were out of the aquatic environment, it was like sort of everything was sort of bleached and threatening and sort of pale looking, and
yeah,
then once you were in her apartment or in her imaginary world or in this fantasy world, then suddenly everything got super saturated and it became this gorgeous, gorgeous, like lush, like vista of blue and green. There was blue and
yeah.
green everywhere.
Remembering Guillermo del Toro's films, it just gave me chills thinking about like how I can remember like the colors of those movies, like and
Yes,
like
me
how
too.
like visually striking they are. Like Pacific Rim is like gold and like a blue and red, and then like
Yes.
Pan's Labyrinth is
The
kind of this.
blood is super saturated in
Yeah,
Pan's
yeah,
Labyrinth. It's so scarlet red. Like, I can
yeah.
remember the color of blood in
Nobody, you
Pan's
can never
Labyrinth.
forget also this guy, I forgot his name, but that it's
Yeah.
terrifying. But those
This
colors again,
yes.
yeah. Um, but I actually, something that was also getting me hard to get into Frankenstein at first when I was watching it was I just like I'm still not really sure how I feel about the cinematography, because
Interesting.
this is something I saw in the trailer too, and that made me skeptical of it in the first place. Like, I feel like there is a trend of like more more cinematographers using wide angles like for everything,
Oh.
you know?
Oh,
Like I
uh-huh.
just see
It's like a your drone issue.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, what do we need everything to be that wide? Do we like why aren't we like varying up the shots? This is just me as an editor too. Like I like having a bunch of different things to work with. Some of those beginning scenes that were kind of drawing out like the building of this of Oscar Isaac's story or
Yeah.
Frankenstein's story was like felt like it was drawing out because we just had these like couple angles to work with. It was like we're just gonna there's and it's something unique that feels uniquely characteristic of Netflix too, because it feels like to me like, all right, let's just slap the camera on a steady cam and then just cover the whole scene like let's just follow what's going on instead of like
Yeah.
let's lock it down. We're gonna film only this thing and then we're gonna film only that thing and then we're gonna get a bunch of that and then cut in between those. Instead, we're just kind of following like this.
Yeah,
Um,
you're the way that you're talking about it makes it sound like you think it's a little lazy. So, rather than
yeah,
having a more varied range of shots or
yeah.
angles, which was exactly your point when you were talking about drones. You're like directors for a while, you were saying we're overusing drones, like everything had to be this sweeping tracking, when
Yeah.
actually, why not try a close up? Like, why not try
Like
some more.
and why can't it be shaky or something? Like,
Right,
like
right,
why
right.
does everything have to be that steady? Like people focus on making it perfect and making it look
Yeah,
perfect, but
yeah.
imperfection is good too.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what people had to work with back in the day. So, it was. and just like when we were close on characters, like I just was like, okay, back up, like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
need to be that close. But at the same time, it makes it some of the things more visceral, like all the things you mentioned that were not camera work, like set design, like costumes,
Yes.
like all that stuff, that is put on the forefront as a
Yes.
result, which makes
Yeah.
it very cool because you could see all that. But and then I started to just care less as the movie went on. And then thing the last issue I really wanted to mention was like, I another reason I wasn't getting sold on it or immediately was because of Oscar Isaac's narration of like him telling this story to this sailor
Yeah.
and just being like, and then my mother died.
I know.
And then I created a monster to take. It's like why? Okay, why does the sailor care?
I know.
Why? It
I
just
asked the exact same question. I was like,
yeah.
and when he said, "Do you want to hear the rest of my story?" And the sailor was like, "I would hear
He's
your
like,
the rest of your
yeah,
story."
it
Yeah,
was a
and
great,
I was like,
great
"Why?"
story. It's like, why are you invested? Like, I wish there
Dude,
was
you should
something.
be trying to free your ship from the ice and
Okay,
keeping your men's spirits up.
this was something I was wondering. I was like, if the whole setup of this entire story technically is that we're telling a story, like
Mhm.
most people would make that more interesting. But the problem with that is that you would have to create this kind of like whole B story. Like, like there's the A of like um how Frankenstein came to be and how the monster came to be. But you'd also have to keep up like, okay, but what's the relationship like with the captain too? Like what's going on there? I feel like it could have been done, but the way it was done just felt like when we would cut back to those scenes, I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? Like what are we doing to address the immediate problem, which is like there's this monster trying to get at him. Like
Yeah.
why do we care? Or is there something about the captain's character that makes him interested? Like maybe he lost a child and like that like would make him more
I
invested in
wasn't
the
convinced
story.
by any of it,
No,
and
I
actually
wasn't
I wasn't
really.
convinced and actually, I was trying to think back to his motivation for because his performance for me lacked tenderness and lacked humanity. I actually after the movie, I was trying to remember why he had created the monster in the first place,
Yeah,
and
good
I was
point.
like, "Oh, yeah, his mom died." And I was like, "Oh, did was I?" And it just wasn't that impressive to me, and that's a
Yeah,
terrible thing to say. Like, normally, a child losing their parent should be one of the most profound things ever, and
yeah,
for some reason, it just barely registered. And
exactly.
actually, I think that there were some interesting Gothic signifiers, like that statue, the angel. I think I was supposed to be, like, more moved by that than I was, but every time they showed the angel, all I literally thought of was, "That's a really ugly piece of statuary to have in your house, and
True.
why is it hovering in your room over you like that? That would scare the shit out of me if that were in
Right.
my house." So those are the mundane thoughts that I should not have been having. I think I should have been impressed by these, like, grand sweeps of, like, that the grandeur of the house and the estate and the gothic nature of these, statuary, and instead I was like, "Ew," like, "Yuck, that's
Yeah.
tacky."
Yeah, good point. Especially when they introduced the tower, I was like, okay, am I supposed to feel a certain way about this? Like
I know,
I feel like it's
exactly.
just a shitty building. Like you just came upon a shitty tower.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
and I'm saying that all this went away once Frankenstein walked into that room and
That's
started
right.
speaking full sentences. I was like, "Oh, okay." Like,
Yes,
hey, oh, he's like and he's also not killing everybody immediately,
yes,
which was never his character. So I was like, "All right, well, what's happening now?" Now I'm like super invested. I need to know how this ends.
yes. So
And
I guess
yeah,
I guess our issues maybe they can be summed up in that we both liked part 2 much better than we liked part 1. And not only that, but part 1 was just backstory that was not done that well. So that's it. That's all. It was, and you and I have a lot of conversations about exposition. We have a lot of conversations about over exposition and how they choose to introduce it.
yeah,
And so, part 1, we can argue back and forth about what were its biggest flaws, but it sounds like it's writing, it's like maybe a little bit lazy on the cinematography, a little bit lazy about establishing the motivations and also in filling in the backstory, I would
yeah.
say. Yeah.
I'm shocked, that I was more receptive to this movie because like I felt like Guardians 3 had the same issue. It was like all backstory
Oh,
for
interesting.
Rocket, like
Yeah.
without like him actually experiencing anything. and
Yeah,
then the
for our
bee.
viewers, I haven't seen Guardians 3 because Eric keeps on warning me off of it.
That's not true. I tell you to watch it. I'm not warning you. I just say that there's like just
I
straight
know,
up
but
animal cruelty.
your disappointment was so profound, Eric, it really
That's
killed me.
on you, okay? You can figure out what you want to say about it. Um,
But you and I really loved both of the 1 and 2, that's why
I
it's so
know.
hard to bring myself to watch it. Okay, sorry,
You need to get better about
You
watching things you don't like because that it needs to it's just a critical engagement. But I don't know that you didn't like this one that much. But I'm just saying like, you know, and the B story of Guardians 3 was like not interesting at all, you know.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I feel like this film solved that by having the B story really not that existent, which was like, well, it should be the A story. It's them like sitting in the ship, like, and you have this impending threat of like, oh, the monster's gonna come. But they made us more invested in the backstory because it was just so sprawling and like so many things happened to get to that point where they are. So it was just more interesting
Yeah,
overall.
the whole point about having different POVs and different threads and a part 1 and a part 2 and backstory is that they're all supposed to be equally compelling and equally important. Like, you're supposed to be able to pull on any one of those threads and then have it eventually come together in a really satisfying culmination of all these different story threads, you know? And so the fact that I just clicked in meant that he didn't Del Toro did not succeed with the Oscar Isaac with the Frankenstein backstory. He just didn't. I don't even think he didn't succeed with like Death of the Mother, why his motivation for building the monster, even like why he chose to like go to invest that deeply anyway. I wasn't even that convinced actually by Frankenstein being really into what's her face, Mia Goth's character.
I
Um,
wasn't convinced that that was romantic, although that seems to be what everybody's interpreting it as and as it was marketed, I guess, like people are saying.
yes, I think it
So
was totally intended to be romantic.
yeah, maybe, but I just didn't see it. Maybe I
It's
just
just
didn't want to believe it that to be that because it just felt like connection, you know.
yes, yeah.
Um,
Well, I think that he just to put it in the crudest of terms, I think that he thought that not only was she beautiful and compelling, but also that she was someone that he could fly his freak flag with, as they say.
sure, yeah.
And and then she was basically saying, "Yes, I do have some really strange tendencies, like, killing bugs or whatever. Like, I see beauty in like a dissected corpse, for example, or anatomy. But she said, "I'm not who you think I am," and she's already chosen. She's already chosen. And I actually think that I think that they were trying to say that her character, she chose his brother because he was more pure than Oscar Isaac was, than Frankenstein was, and she loved the monster, the creature, because he was the purest of them all. He was completely innocent
Oh,
and pure, and he was basically like a butterfly newly emerged from his cocoon. So, I think that her interest was in purity, not in freakishness, and I think he mistook that. That's my interpretation of it. But it wasn't very well drawn, is what I'm saying.
yeah. I don't know. I didn't really care, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I
But
mean, we didn't care.
they cared like she was the only person to really I mean that's something I liked when they showed up and he was chained up in the cellar or whatever. They were
Yeah.
like, "Why is he chained up?"
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, "Oh, great!" So like, I'm not the only person that would,
Right.
think that.
That's the monster that's the inverted monster theme, though. He assumed that this creature was a monster that needed to be chained up. She immediately realized that he's not the monster,
Yeah.
it's
So
Frankenstein who's the
so going
monster.
off of that, I'm not willing to just be like, okay, so she's in love with him. So,
Oh, the
um,
monster?
yeah, like,
Oh, I think she was.
okay, I know, I probably that's what was intended, but I'm just willing to kind of base it off of just like I see you as a person, like, and I want you to be a person.
Okay, that's a great transition to The Shape of Water because this is starting to run long. Because The Shape of Water is my second favorite Del Toro movie after Pan's Labyrinth, and I actually think that the relationship between human and monster was much, much more effectively done. So I think that what was intended between Mia Goth's character, I need to remember her damn name, and
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, between Elizabeth's character and the creature, I think that was it was much more effectively and tenderly and beautifully explored in The Shape of Water. By the way, I also thought that The Shape of Water was imperfect, that there were parts of it that just made it, but I think that for whatever reason, it held together more as a whole than Frankenstein did for me. So I think that Del Toro is I'm both gonna love him and I'm gonna be frustrated by him because I think that it's like a musician, by the way. It's like a musician who puts out a perfect album, and then he puts out an album where you like 1 song, and then he puts out an album where you like 6 out of the 12 songs, you know? And so, I think that that is what I feel about Del Toro. So, I think that Pan's Labyrinth was the closest that he ever got to putting together a perfect album. I think that that movie is just so beautifully and strangely done from start to finish. And I think that there are so many things that one can say about Del Toro's favorite themes, but ultimately, I think that he uses fairy tales and fairy tale structures and with elements of horror, but they're really fairy tales to tell the story about all the imperfections and cruelties and love and beauty of human, of humankind. So he uses fantasy and fairy tale tropes to tell the story about how wonderful people can be and how truly unforgivably cruel people can be. That is what I think is the central sort of animating force of Del Toro. So I think The Shape of Water does a really good job of speaking those themes through the different characters, you know? And so there's characters that are innocent, like Elisa, you know, she's perfectly innocent. And then there's characters who are not so much innocent, but just aliens in the world. So the creature in Shape of Water, I will never forget the horror that I felt when he ate that guy's cat. When he ate her neighbor's cat. 'Cause, like, I was just floating along and thinking that the main villain was what's his face, played by Michael Shannon, you know? I was like, "Oh, he's," and then all of us, and I'm like, "Oh, he's just a misunderstood fish guy, right?" And of course she had to rescue him, and then all of a sudden you see the freaking cat, like, headless, and you're like, "Oh my god." And so it was horrifying, horrifying. But overall, I thought I liked The Shape of Water. Although I agree with the many, many people who did not think that it deserved Best Picture. They didn't think it was that level of a film. They thought that it was like sort of a beautiful, strange little film. And I agree. And the reason why I like it more than Frankenstein is because I actually think that the performances were all stellar, like super, super stellar. I think that Michael Shannon, I think that what's her face? Sally Hawkins, Richard Jenkins is one of my favorite actors. Like, I just think that they all gave, and I
I
think that
loved
Mike
Octavia Spencer in that movie too.
yes, yeah, they're all amazing in that picture, and the Michael Shannon is such a menacing, menacing creep that I
God,
think that
he scares me, bro.
he scares me too, and I
Yeah.
actually think that this performance blows his General Zod villain performance out the water. Like, I think that, he's terrifying as a real person than he is as General Zod in Man of Steel. So
Yeah.
that's my take on The Shape of Water, and I also just think that the movie is beautifully, like Frankenstein, I think it's beautifully designed and realized, and the production design is insane. And in particular, a memory that sticks with me is the metal of the tank that they use, like how, like, blue-green it was, and you could see, like, the rivets of the tank that was holding him. I think that they just did an extraordinary job with that.
Yeah, production design was really amazing in Shape of Water. I think like or just in all of Del Toro's movies like these feel like such real places. The apartments
Yes, they feel like such real places.
yeah, like starting in the apartments where they lived like it just felt like that was a real like that was above the movie theater. Like you feel like you just like know the anatomy of these places like as well as these characters do, which I think is such a rare thing to be able to do
Yeah.
and to create that
That's
sense
a
of
lovely way to
space.
put it, Eric.
It's well it's because like
That's such a lyrical way to state it, but I
it's
absolutely 100% agree with you.
it's funny that like people get lost in focusing too much on like what they want their characters to do and what
Yes.
they want them to do in the story that they forget about we want to see how these characters live, like where they live, like what they're
Yes.
doing, what they care about, who they care about, like it's all the stuff around them that makes the characters that much better. So that yeah, and in that respect, that movie does it very well. I actually don't. I feel like I just don't have that many thoughts like
About the movie?
about the movie. Maybe just because I saw it, just saw it. But
Do you like Frankenstein more than Shape of Water?
no, well, I think Shape of Water is a better movie for sure.
Interesting.
But but and I don't know what I
You're
would
not sure
rewatch.
why?
No. I feel like I almost feel like I'd sooner rewatch Frankenstein, but I don't know if rewatching Frankenstein would change my opinion of it. I think part of the allure was that I didn't know anything that was going to happen, and I don't know anything about Frankenstein's story really. So, and Shape of Water, I feel like I've covered that. I don't need to go back really. Like it's not something that really that inspires me that much. It as much as it was just I just appreciated its craft, and what it was saying.
You just made clear for me something that is interesting to me about my mixed feelings about, Del Toro. So, it's about whether or not I would ever rewatch them,
Yeah.
and I have no desire to rewatch any of them. And that's interesting to me because Pan's Labyrinth, I think, is a great movie. I think it is his greatest movie. I have no desire to ever rewatch that for a different reason than the other movies that I have no desire to rewatch.
Yeah.
So the other movies that I have no desire to rewatch, and this actually includes Pacific Rim. Sorry, I know you disagree.
I
Yeah,
know. You just said
yeah,
every movie, so I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
what.
yeah. So, but the reason why I don't have any desire to rewatch is because what was astonishing and fantastic about the movies the first time around were his production design and the incredible visual impact of these stories. And because I've seen them, I've seen the visual impact, the story isn't going to make me come back. Like, I'm just not going to come back to see Frankenstein, Pacific Rim, Pinocchio, or Shape of Water. And Pan's Labyrinth, I'm not going to rewatch because it was so harrowing to me. The horrors of war and the horrors of the torture that the oppression that this little girl was going through with her mother being imprisoned by that general and being forced to give birth and then dying. And then her having the whole theme of just um, having a fairy tale as a way to escape the horror of her everyday life and the trauma she was going through in everyday life, that was like searing to me. The images were, and there was a lot of violent, horrifying stuff. So at all times when you were locked in her fairy tale in Pan's Labyrinth with the three quests that she had to do, the three tasks, at all times you were constantly aware of the horror of war and violence that was lurking on the margin, you know? And so, and I actually think that that's one of the few movies that pull together all those narrative threads because at the end of Pan's Labyrinth, she dies and she's the princess that realized her fate as the princess in the fairy tale that was the overlying sort of metaphor for the whole movie and the narrative plot. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I guess my interesting thing about Del Toro is that I would never rewatch any of his films. And I would say that for most of my favorite directors, like I'm dying to see One Battle After Another because I was so anxious when I was watching it. Like I want to go back and I want to
Yeah. But now that
appreciate.
you know what happens,
That's
you
right.
want to appreciate it for what it is.
I wanna appreciate the performances again. I wanna
Yeah.
appreciate all the different, like, plots. I wanna appreciate all the characters, you know? I wanna watch, One Battle After Another with no, like, cloud of anxiety over my head. But I have no desire to ever watch Frankenstein again. I have no desire to ever watch any of his films again.
That's funny.
And I think that, by the way, feel sad when I say this because I kinda feel like I would love Del Toro if I met him. I feel like there's a part of me that wants to take and bend a
I
knee to him because he's so gifted.
That's funny that you say that because I was gonna say that like he was somebody I'd actually want to meet and like ask
Yes.
questions, like get to know his process. Like he seems like so cuddly and, and nice.
I know, yeah, he seems so cuddly and also not only that, but people at the film festivals and where he does a Q&A, people say that he's so delightful. He's so enthusiastic. Like I told you this when we were talking about Pacific Rim, when he was like telling everybody about Pacific Rim, he could not contain himself because he was so excited about the kaiju and like how they design these monsters and the robots and everything like that.
Yeah.
And actually I wish. I so wish that Guillermo del Toro would make better movies to support his visual talent. I so badly want the cool ideas in Guillermo del Toro's head to be surrounded by better narrative structure and better writing. But I really do feel sad that I don't love him more. It makes me just profoundly sad that I don't love him more because I think he's so talented, and I also think he's such a genius as a visual artist.
I don't have a desire to rewatch Shape of Water um or Pan's Labyrinth. I think like they feel like now they feel like memories, like
Oh,
like
interesting.
it's like being asked like would you want to relive this part of your life? And it's like never, no, because I learned from that, like it was a very important experience, but I don't need to go back because there's some stuff that is like kind of hard to deal with again, like to just relive.
Yeah.
But like but I put Frankenstein and Pacific Rim in the category of like it's so simple, like, and it's not like something that really digs that deep, and they have a lot of enjoyable aspects about both like Pacific Rim is the least deep you can be. I mean, it's just robots and monsters. I was, as you were talking, I was trying to think of like what's deep about Pacific Rim. There's that whole story like where he's trying to get over the grief of his brother, I think. But who cares? I
I
don't
like
know.
how
Like,
you're, like, squinching up your face, like, "What is the
what was serious about
What
that
was serious about
story?
it? Is there anything meaningful about Pacific Rim?
Nothing really. It was just cool. So and then I also
You
like
know what? That's a really good tip, by the way. Maybe there are some movies that you could maybe I should divide Guillermo del Toro into, there are some movies that you would just watch because they're just cool. You know what I
it's
mean?
just a person. It's always a
There's
personal
nothing
thing.
meaningful. Yeah, but there's
Also,
nothing meaningful about them.
like now that I'm watching stuff and thinking, can I make an edit to this? That's like that's another thing I factor in, and I have a really funny idea for a Frankenstein edit, and I've seen some good edits of Frankenstein. So,
You have?
uh, yeah, they used there were a couple edits that used like the main theme from Twin Peaks, which we just finished the first season of.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, that's such a good pairing of like this movie and the music. Um, and I don't have the desire to do that with Shape of Water or Pan's Labyrinth because those feel like intrinsically woven into society somehow, like it just feels ingrained um in memory, and
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
something I like, oh, this is a fun novel thing that I could just come back to over and over. That's like
Right.
that's Pacific Rim or that's and I realistically Frankenstein is like a three and a half star movie. I just gave it that four because like I was moved by the end of it. Like if you can touch, my heart in some way, like I will give you that credit.
Yeah.
But it'll be repeat viewings that definitely decide like how it really sits with me. Um,
Yeah. I have to say I don't remember Pinocchio at all except
oh,
for images.
Pinocchio! I forgot. Ugh,
Yeah, I don't
that's another
remember
movie.
Pinocchio at all, and Pinocchio is a really it's a really beautiful theme. Again, this is okay, so these themes about fairy tales and human and who are the real monsters, there's also this theme about what it means to be a human, like what it truly means to exhibit humanity, and Pinocchio is the most classic story of all when it comes to that. I don't I don't really remember that. I remember watching that movie and feeling completely unmoved. I think I thought Pinocchio was super annoying. I think that
Yeah,
I thought
the songs were not good,
the
really.
songs were not good. It just and also, I mean, that was entirely not live action, right? It was entirely animated, as I recall.
Stop motion.
It was stop motion. So I did not love Pinocchio at all. Still thought it was good to look at, but I did not it left less of an impression on me than the Disney cartoon with with Jiminy Cricket or whoever the hell that was.
Yeah, yeah.
So so I guess my point is that maybe the fault is with me that I want Del Toro to be better than he is. Like, maybe sometimes it's okay that he's just sort of fun and lightweight and meaningless. Do you know see what I mean? Like, I if I were to go back and we were to do that episode where I went hard at Pacific Rim and criticized it, I actually think that I would probably be a lot easier on it. I think that Pacific Rim is a fine rewatch. when I'm folding laundry, I think I'd be like, "Yeah, let's all sync up and do our little." So, so I think that I think I'm overly harsh, and I don't think that all of Del Toro's movies should be judged by the same standard. I think that they should be judged by what they're trying to do. That's my point. So, I guess Y in other words, and probably Del Toro would support this, you should one should have a unique reaction to every single one of a director's movies. It should be judged on its own terms, I guess. So, in my mind, Pan's Labyrinth is really his masterpiece. Shape of Water was a very good film, but definitely not a Best Picture Oscar, definitely not worthy of it, and I feel like it must have been a weak slate that year. Frankenstein is fine, and part 2 was really good, and they have high hopes of Jacob Elordi going for a Best Supporting Actor nomination, and I think that that's an interesting I don't know if I care one way or another.
I don't
Um,
think anything performance-wise is really Oscar worthy in that movie. Like I
yeah.
liked it. I enjoyed it. It's like it's just nothing it's again, like I said, it's nothing amazing.
Yes.
It doesn't break some boundary like that I didn't expect.
Yeah, yeah. But I would return to your phrasing at the top of this episode when you said that you have not held space for Del Toro, you know? You have not reserved space for Del Toro in the way that you hold space for other directors, and I think that that's a really good way to put it. But again, I'm gonna just say it makes me sad because I he's someone that I wanna love more than I do. I really do wanna love more than I do. I wanna love his movies more, and it's so crushingly disappointing when I don't love them as much as I want to.
Yeah, I gained a greater appreciation through watching Frankenstein for him.
Mm.
Um because he took something that I was going into not really with the best outlook and turned
Yeah.
it around, which is like which I love that he did that. It just like feels so good because I end up enjoying a movie for once in my fucking life. But there's also
Your
like
curdled little heart, you finally
yeah,
enjoy it.
there's also little things
You're
like
23, Eric. You're a little bit young to be so jaded.
yeah, I know. There's also there's also the little things like uh I was also worried because I do know he likes a bit more gore or horror-y sort of stuff, but it felt very tasteful in Frankenstein. Like I mean, in Shape of Water, fucking Michael Shannon drags that scientist guy by the cheek like through a
Yeah.
bullet hole.
Yeah.
Insane, like terrible. But also like these moments like in Frankenstein too, when he just rips that guy's jaw off like just out of nowhere. Uh, they're quick, they're tasteful, they're enough to like make you be like, oh my God, like I can't like it's exciting. It's just like, oh my God. I was in the living room and Carrie was just like sitting at the table and I just like would be reacting and it's just like he just tore his jaw off like entirely. It makes it fun, but it's not in a
Did you
way
feel that way when the cat's head was ripped off too?
uh, no, I was just like, oh, what the fuck? Like, we're gonna have sex with that? Like, uh, you just ate a cat? Like, um, it's not like we're gonna show you like the blood vessels in this thing that's being just completely torn apart. Like, we're just
Yeah.
gonna have a shot where that's happening, and like that's shocking, you know?
Yeah. So, overall, I'm glad that we saw Frankenstein. I do feel your pain at recording this episode so long after Halloween, but I actually think that
Oh
Del
no,
Toro
I actually I was worried about that, but then when I watched it, it was like, oh, it's like cold, like it is now, cold. Uh, it just feels cold.
Yes.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like a good seasonal time.
Yeah, and then the other interesting thing I'll just bring up before we wrap is, Frankenstein. There's a lot of talk. I read a lot of these articles predicting Oscar futures, and there's a lot of talk. We talked about this actually in One Battle After Another. But there were so many films that came out of the film festivals that people thought were going to be big contenders for Oscars, and so Frankenstein was one of them. Train Dreams was another I think it's Ballad of Train Dreams or Ballad Train Dreams, and then Hamnet, and then One Battle After Another, So they thought that they were gonna be all these big, Best Picture contenders and also Best Actor performances coming out of all these films, and Frankenstein is considered to be a disappointment, And so number 1, everybody's talking about the fact that the box office it's been one of the worst box office seasons ever, ever in I mean, like, literally, Hollywood is reeling right now, you
Yeah.
know? So, right now, the top 3 contenders in the Best Picture category are Sinners, One Battle After Another, and, Hamnet, you know? And everybody thinks that Hamnet should not be in the same category as and the other interesting thing, by the way, is that the Sinners folks aren't really campaigning, you know? Like, Michael Jordan showed up at the, Academy event that was held, which is sort of a visibility event where a lot of people who wanna be in the race are showing up. But people are talking about how so many, movies just sputtered out and did not do major box office and did not sort of get awards hopes up and running, you know? And so, it is really interesting to see, but I definitely don't think that Frankenstein should be in the even in the category of Best Picture consideration. Like, I don't think it falls anywhere near Sinners but yet I think it should absolutely be considered for the technical Oscars. Like, I think it should be, considered for production design, costume design, things like that, you know? And so, I think it's gorgeous in so many ways, but it's not it just doesn't have the quality of storytelling that I would want in a Best Picture Oscar. But it is interesting how many have sputtered and died for various reasons, one after the other. Like, you know, The Rock was really hoping that The Smashing Machine was gonna be a big deal, and it did terrible at the box office. And then, Sydney Sweeney has been in this, you know, movie that just opened, completely tanked at the box office, completely tanked. And so there's just a lot of it's been a horrible, horrible fall. And, you know, I I guess just to wrap this up, I would say I really want people to wanna go out and see films. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I there are people I know who went and saw, like, every Best Picture contender or every, like, you know, every major movie that was getting talked about, and I don't feel like that's happening this fall, and that makes me sad. That makes me really, really sad. I know that they can all be caught on streaming eventually, but, I it just makes me long for a time when people got excited about fucking movies, that's all, you know? So, that's where I would, like, wrap this up, Eric, is that I'm glad that you saw them. I'm glad that you liked Frankenstein more than you thought you did and that you thought Shape of Water was okay, you're glad you saw it, you know? And so, I just want more people to watch more movies.
I'm
And to take your point, earlier point, I will try to watch movies that I don't like.
yeah. Well, I have the same issue. I was fully ready to just avoid Frankenstein, and not watch it. Um, I am more willing to blame the studios about all these like misgivings with the theaters and box office and than I am, for people not going. It's like because, people even when I was looking at media about Frankenstein, there were people bringing up how things were marketed. It's like always that's always a thing that I think about too, and that's why I actually avoid trailers, a lot because like it's better to just go in blind and be, excited by a new experience than something you build your expectations for and then it falls flat or it's just not what you expected it to be. There's just like a constant they're trying to keep this constant like cycle going that nobody cares about because it just feels like the same cycle, instead of like something unique, something new, like and special, which is hard to do, obviously, for anything that's coming out because everything has been made before. But like, what is gonna make this new thing new? Um, and I feel like it's not being pushed out that way because it's just everybody can feel how hard it is, like for everybody just to live, like, and now you want us to care about this, movie that might be shitty through Netflix. Netflix again. Like that's another thing. Like the fact that it was like for Netflix was something that also turned me off. So it's just people are trying to uh keep cultural understanding alive when it's being kind of shoved down our throats.
Yeah,
In
that's
a way
true.
we don't much care for. Like the fucking the loathing of streaming lately has been increasing like so much like for me. Like, it's so much better to just find a movie on cable than it is to like have seven streaming services and like close out of one and open another just to get like there's a really funny video of this guy um my favorite YouTuber who made this video of just saying, so if you want to watch John Wick 1, that's on Netflix. But if you want to watch John Wick 2, you're gonna have to switch to log into your account for this other one. And then, but John Wick 3 is coupled with that only if you buy the premium pack that allows all John Wicks to be included. So it just goes to show how fucking insane it is how we consume media now. Also, everything's on TikTok. Um, and if I actually had to make an argument, I think like being a part of this like TikTok editing community now, like we're keeping stuff alive. Like, and
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, we're resurrecting stuff. Like,
Yeah.
studios are finally like starting to take notice a little bit. Legendary started hiring uh people to make Twilight edits because Twilight edits were getting so popular. Like,
Yes,
this is
they're
a
so
franchise.
funny.
This is a franchise that ended years ago. Like, and
Yeah,
people are
they're
still
so
making
funny. I've
Twilight.
seen those edits. They are hilarious.
Yeah,
They're hilarious. I also like the people who reenact, like the single actor who reenacts all the scenes from Twilight, which is just hilarious.
yeah. But then,
Hilarious.
but then again, that worries me because right now it's sort of still in its kind of like infancy. Like,
Yeah,
they're just letting us roam free with this like kind of stuff. But as soon as they like try to capitalize it, then it becomes not fun anymore.
yeah.
So
The latest points of excitement I've heard about movie watching, and neither of them is a movie that I'm gonna see in the theater, but everyone seems really excited about Predator: Badlands,
yeah,
and then everybody, seems really excited about Zootopia too.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
really funny that those are the 2 movies.
It's
Those
so
are the
funny how little of a shit I care about Zootopia 2. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Those are the 2 movies though that are generating the most buzz, like, people are so excited to see Zootopia 2 and Predator: Badlands. Dad and I were in a bookstore last weekend, and this guy was describing the plot of Predator: Badlands to his friend, and he had seen it, and I asked him, "Is it really that?" And he goes, "It's just so good," and he goes, "I've seen it 3 times," you know? And so, anyway, he was going utterly insane, but I want more movies to excite us and want us to, like, make me wanna commit to seeing it in a theater. So, I think that, Annie wanted us to do Wacom Trier, who just did, Sentimental Values, and then he had also done The Worst Person in the World, and I'm totally
Yeah.
willing to watch those, but those aren't movies that would make me go to a theater. Those are, like, human scale, intimate family dramas, which I think are really powerful, but I'm not sure that I would go to see them in the theater. But One Battle After Another was totally worth seeing in the theater, and I guess I would love to have a one battle after another, like, that happens every month at least. Is that asking too much? Like, once a month to have, like, a movie that you're excited about seeing, you know? So, anyway, that's where I
Yeah.
would end this, but I'm glad that you saw these 2 movies, and, if Guillermo del Toro ever hears this, I just want you to know that I do love you, and I think we would be great friends, but I just sometimes maybe just stop being so loosey goosey with your collaborative process and really like try to lock it down. So that's my
Okay,
final.
since we have Guillermo del Toro here listening, I love it. Keep going. I love your movies. You're
Yeah.
awesome. And not like my mom here who, you know, just wants to complain all the time. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, thank you for getting me to watch these. I think he's an important director.
Yes.
And we just need to value all the directors, creators, artists who are still committing to their craft,
And
still
trying to do
making
original things.
trying to do things that are original and not capitulating to whatever studio framework or kind of marketing strategy.
That is
Uh,
correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
making real art. It's like very important nowadays.
Yeah. All right. I love you, Eric. This was fun.
Love you too. Thank you.